All right. Today I've been joined by Courtenay Dempsey, who you should know if you're an AFL fan or an Essendon fan. Played 133 AFL games for the Bombers, which expanded from 2006 all the way to 2016, almost 10 years ago. Picked 19 in the 2005 draft. Courtney, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, it's now, obviously, you started your AFL journey for the Bombers in 2006. How was draft night for you? Obviously, it's probably a tad different to how it is now and maybe drastically different. How was it back then for you a long, long time ago, 2005?
Yeah, it's completely different to what it is now.
Mm.
It was never televised. I think it was through the internet at that stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in Cairns in Queensland. I was actually asleep at the time, and got a phone call from my manager at the time, and congratulated me and said that I got drafted to Essendon, which which was funny enough because the next thing I asked him was, "Where's that?" So I had no idea who Essendon were and where they were. At the time, I only knew of a few AFL clubs, and that was it. But yeah, I was excited and looking forward to my journey.
So how long was the footy journey before that, Corny? Like how long in advance did you want to pursue AFL football?
Not that much. I mean, it was very mixed because obviously being in Queensland, I had rugby league background. I played rugby league for most of my life, and really didn't know the sport AFL until I, sort of missed tryouts for a representative side, and in particular to go down and then have the next step to go to sort of the Cowboys Young Guns, which is the North Queensland Cowboys, and I missed that. So my PE teacher at school said, "Why don't you come down and have a crack at this sport?" I didn't know. I just thought I might as well come along and have a look and see what it's like. And then from there, it was pretty good.
That's good. So did you expect at that time in that draft period, Corny, that the Bombers had any interest? I'm sure, again, it was drastically different to what it is now. Did you have any inkling at that point in time that Essendon had shown some interest at that point?
No, they didn't really show any interest, actually. Like, we had a draft camp back then where all players that got any interest through I think it's about 10 AFL clubs, then they will be able to you're able to attend the draft camp, and that was in Canberra at that stage. And from there, it was all of those clubs. I think I had, what was it, 16 clubs at that stage, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, so 60 clubs. Out of those 16 clubs, there's only 14 clubs that were involved. Hold on, can you pause that? Sorry. Yeah, so with those 16 clubs, only 14 clubs showed interest, but that gave me the opportunity to go down to the Canberra and the draft camp and get to go through all the testings that they do. I think they call it the combine now.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I think they're trying to really replicate what happens over in America with their drafts, with the NFL, and I'm not too sure about NBA, but NFL, when they have their draft, they have their combines and stuff like that there. So they're trying to replicate that, but we didn't have those that much of a big thing around it when I was going through it. So it's quite it's very, very different to the these days. And so it was just literally all of us in those dormitory rooms down in the AIS from all over Australia coming together, and I think it would have been over 100 of players that were going to potentially get drafted, and so we spent, I think it was a weekend away down there in Canberra, and went through all the testings that everyone else goes through today, and and then have your interviews with every individual football club. But it was quite daunting, obviously. But I didn't know too much until I sort of went down there and immersed myself in amongst all of the like just all in the AFL sort of life, I guess, with all of that stuff there, and actually meeting new people through the camp from other states who have been really dreaming of playing AFL. So it was good to meet all those people as well, and get to understand everyone else's differences and all that. But it was a good 3 days away, and but I didn't have a meeting with Essendon. I can't really remember the other football club, but didn't really think of Essendon at all. So, which is probably why I never knew who Essendon were when I got drafted. So, it was quite good in that aspect, because I didn't have any expectations of what of when I get there. So it was quite good from my perspective. Yeah.
That's good. So how was it trying to settle in at the Bombers? Obviously you said you didn't really know who they were and what it was until your name was read out, or the phone call and everything like that. So how was it like transitioning into the Bombers, and how was it throughout the time? Which obviously some things did happen throughout the time, but which we'll get to. But during the start of that journey though, Corny, how was it settling in?
Yeah, obviously it was quite hard. I went to, because I live in, my family, and I grew up in Cairns, which is obviously at the top end of Australia, and I moved away to Brisbane, which is only 2 hour flight from Cairns, and that was quite comfortable because of the simple fact that I'm still in the same state. I had family in Brisbane as well, so I was quite comfortable being in Brisbane, and potentially getting drafted to Brisbane. But unfortunately, obviously the extra 2 hours flight away, plus it's freezing cold, so wasn't very enjoyable at the start. But with Kevin Sheedy being the coach at the time, and having a number of Indigenous players there, such as Dean Rioli, Nathan Lovett-Murray was there, Andrew Lovett, and on top of that, being drafted with Patrick Ryder, who I met previously at the draft camp, and never really thought that both of us would get drafted together to the same club. So, it was good to have somebody there that I knew. It made it a lot more easier in that sense. And obviously, I think everyone knows it. But Kevin Sheedy being the pioneer of bringing Indigenous footballers into the AFL scene and really helping them flourish, I think really helped me out a lot at the first couple of years. So there was a good system that was put in place for me to really thrive down there.
Sure, which is good. And now, obviously, loyalty, I suppose, Courtney, is something these days that isn't a thing so much anymore as it may have been back then. You're all one club player at the Bombers. Overall, obviously, the club went through some things throughout your journey there. But in your 133 games at the Bombers, in your AFL journey, What were some games that stood out for you? Was it like a debut game? Was there particularly games that stood out to you that you always will remember?
Obviously with Essendon, we play in very big games. We've got the Anzac
Mm.
Day, Dreamtime at the G, big games against Carlton. You get no less than 70,000 there every game, no
Mm.
matter where we are on the ladder. Um, I guess there are a number of games that have really stood out.
Mhm.
My debut, obviously, is one of them.
Yeah.
It was round 7, 2006, I think, against Carlton.
Mhm.
Uh, First time running out onto the MCG in front of, I think it was 70,000 there at that stage
Pretty
too.
nice.
So, coming from a few cars parked around the oval to a stadium just pretty much packed. It's
Mm.
quite daunting, but you get used to it, and then it all tends to be just white noise, like literally white noise
Mm.
when you're out in the middle of the oval. But yeah, there are a number of games. The '09 Anzac Day, where
Mm.
Zaharakis kicked that goal to get us in
Oh
front.
yes.
Um, and then all the Dreamtime at the G games,
Mm.
where obviously where we go out and the Indigenous boys representing our culture,
Mhm.
our families, and the club as well. So there are those games that stand really
Mm.
big within me. But then I have these games where I guess there's ones you know, we were the underdogs and we've come back, like
Mm.
especially the 2013 year when everyone was putting us to the sword at the start of the year, and
Mm.
we just put our heads down and put in the hard work, and when people try to keep knocking us down, we'd always get back up, and we played
Mm.
some exceptional football through that majority of the year
Mm.
until we got kicked out of the finals by the back then CEO of AFL, so Demetrio. So
Yeah.
there's those sort of times as well when it's I really enjoyed, even though it was a tough time for the club,
Mm.
but I guess it galvanized us to as a team and
Yeah.
as an organization, and it really showed when we went out and played. So it was, you can't like, for me, I can't really put it down to one game in particular, but it's quite hard when you've got a club that plays in big games throughout the year, and what we did go through my
Sure.
career. Yeah.
Sure. You mentioned there, Courtney, about having playing for Essendon. Obviously, they're playing all these big games and big club and everything like that. Do you feel like now, even now in 2025, that players will want to go to those clubs because you talk about the big games they play and the big fan bases they have, and want to play at the MCG, like with the Essendons and Collingwoods and Richmonds to a degree, that more people want to go play for those clubs if they got the option to move clubs and etc. because of all the appeal of Anzac Day game and everything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that does give some pull to some, um, yeah, for some players.
Mm.
Although I think nowadays a lot of players are looking for that success and really
Mm.
want to get that premiership. So it is quite hard, especially in a time where it's hard to keep players at one club.
Mm.
Um, but that also too, I do understand from a player's perspective as to why some of them do move, because
Mm.
You talk about myself being loyal to one club, but I feel very strongly about this. But
Mm.
clubs aren't very loyal to you.
Yes.
So I think football clubs or the AFL can't really get upset about the fact that players want to move, because they
Mhm.
are actually thinking about themselves. They are worried about themselves, and they are understanding that them as a person and as a player are actually the assets. So not really the clubs. And
Yeah.
they want that. Players want that security, want that that to be looked after for themselves, because
Mm.
we all know football can't last forever. So we want to
Yeah.
really uh, do that, look after ourselves, look after our families if we have little families as well. So it is a it both goes hand in hand,
Mm.
with the way all the player movement is going, how it's going now.
For sure. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. This was a quote from the year after you were departed Essendon, saying that you were, all of a sudden I've got to go out into the wider world and fend for myself, which I don't have a clue about, because when I went straight from school, I went into football. All I knew was football. You devote your whole life into that club, and then all of a sudden they just take it away from you, and you were thinking, "What have I done wrong? I've done everything you've asked me to do, and yet you're still throwing this at me." And it's just quoted there too, being like a piece of meat just getting thrown and forgotten about once they know you're done. Do the clubs need to do a lot better, Courtney, for when a player departs a club in the AFL in general as a whole?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
You know, the the problem is, obviously I understand there are a lot of AFL players that come in and out of the system, but I think there
Mm.
needs to be more emphasis on the players that have been in that system for a long jeopardy,
Mm.
and have to come out and start their lives at 30, when everyone else that has come out of school has built their life up when they get to
Mm.
30, and they're flourishing in their corporate world. You
Mm.
only get a few selected players, which are the players that bring in money for the clubs or for the AFL. So
Mm.
the AFL look after them,
Yeah.
but they forget that there are still uh, heaps of other players out there that just get forgotten about and not cared about.
Mm.
And I think that the work just needs to be put in there a lot harder than what they are suggesting they're doing, because
Mm.
um, it's it's quite sad. You see in a lot of players these days that, a few players over the last several years have, committed suicide, and it's not right. Like,
Mm.
I don't care what anyone says. That's just not right. They think that we can just go out of something and go straight into something else without any knowledge, not even that, like just any experience in in that world.
Mm.
It's, it's quite frustrating, and there's just they just need to be better. That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
Stop
Yeah.
talking about it. Stop saying it and
Mm.
actually doing it. Like,
Yeah.
just continue hearing words and not seeing any actions happening and nothing happening,
Mm.
and then we lose lives, and then they start to look out. Well, what can we
Yeah.
do better? It's like this. That's too late.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up because some, without mentioning names, but you mentioned about things that when people unfortunately pass, right? And then you, as you just said, they talk about it now and they're like, "Oh, we should do this, and then we need to have this round and everything like that." That may be all well and good that they want to do that, but like you said, they've waited for something unfortunate happen to then bring it up.
Yeah, and look, to be honest, I don't think a round is going to help anything. I think if
Hmm.
they actually get out there and do the work, it something will happen. But there's also got to be funding towards it. I understand that, but I mean, AFL is a billion-dollar industry. If you
Hmm.
think that people's lives aren't worth it, then you're kidding yourself trying to sit there and say that um, that your players' welfares are most important when they're clearly not. So
Mm.
it is quite frustrating that um, there's just too much talk and not enough actions. That's all.
Mm.
That's all it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Sure. And then recently, a couple of years ago, you were part of the Queensland Hall of Fame. You mentioned being from Cairns, wanting to be in the Queensland side of things and wanting to play there. But must be a huge honour for you, Courtney, to be a part of the Queensland Hall of Fame a few years back.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. Actually, the phone number that rang me, I was going to screen it, and I didn't know who it was. So I don't really answer a lot of numbers that I don't know. So,
Yeah.
but I felt, oh look, I'll answer this and see what it is. And then yeah, it happened to me, and actually, I thought at that time too, when the person said, oh, congratulations, this,
Mm.
we've um, looked at your career and what you've done in the community with football, and uh, we've we've actually, accepted you to be in the Queensland AFL Hall of Fame. So, and I
Mm.
was like, you shit me. Who is this? Like bullshit.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was one of my mates playing a prank
Yeah.
on me,
Mm.
and he was like, no, this is so and so from AFL Queensland, and I'll
Yeah.
send you all the details to let you know, like it's all legit. So it was a bit, it's a bit, yeah, it was a bit funny at the start because I just thought it was one of my mates playing a prank on me,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was a bit of foul language coming out of my mouth at the time, which was
Yeah.
quite funny because yeah, it's just I just didn't believe it because
Mm.
I never thought something like this would happen. Yeah, and yeah, no, I'm very honoured to be in the AFL Queensland Hall of Fame, and actually being there alongside the a lot of the 2001, 2, and 3 Brisbane Lions grand finalists. So
Mm.
Ackermanis is there, all of those boys. So it
Yeah.
was it was it was very yeah, it was very, I guess, yeah, I felt very privileged to be standing next to those type of players,
Mm.
and just seeing that, being recognized alongside them is something massive
Mm.
for me.
Sure, and that's very good that you got that recognition. And it would have been a very well calculated master prank if that was to be a joke. When you mentioned about how far they were going into it, it would have been a very well calculated. If that was the case.
Very well calculated, but I mean, my friends, they do a lot of good pranks like that, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it
Okay.
past them. That's for sure.
That's good. Now I'm going to ask you how you pulled this off. Now I'm going to play the clip for everyone to see, and yourself, Courtney. Back when you played against Gold Coast, you may know where I'm going with this trick. I'm going to play the clip though for everyone that doesn't know what it is, and when we come back from the clip, I want you to tell us all how the hell this even happened.
Dempsey, how bold was that? Look at him charging through. He lost it. Oh, luck's a fortune, isn't it? I mean, he had lost control of the footy, Courtney Dempsey, and his heel, a little back heel.
What happened?
Watch the heel. Clip.
Oh, you're
Over
kidding.
the top.
Look at
Straight back to it.
Didn't break stride. That's magical.
Now, the modern players, John, they're so
Oh, they
well
can do
equipped,
anything.
so highly skilled.
Mars, enough chocolate to deal with it.
Yeah, Courtney, how was that?
Yeah, look, yeah, as you can see in that video, I just try to get the ball out of the back 50, and I seen a gap and decided to try and break through it, and happened to. and realised I was almost going to run too far, so I had to bounce it bounce it pretty quick, and
Mm.
because of that, I lost where the ball was, and I just had to look back up and look back, and I just tested my luck, I guess. Tested my luck to flick it up. But at the start, it was more so just to flick it up so I can stop and come back and be able to either get the ball or tackle the person, whoever's going to get the ball. But as soon as it hit my like below my calf and that, I was like, this feels like it's coming off pretty nice. So and then it hit it, and it just swung over very nicely, and just had to keep running, and got it, and kept taking off. But yeah, I all the boys are giving me shit about it. But then a couple of training sessions, I did it a couple of times at the training session there as well too. So just to show them that it wasn't a fluke. But I mean, look, it was a fluke at the time in the game. But our training, I did it a couple of more times afterwards just to prove that to the boys that it wasn't a fluke. But in the game, it was just a fluke.
That's good. Well, it's good that you actually had some more goes at that after training or after that game, as you said, to prove it wasn't a fluke, because if it was just then and there, more than likely they would still carry on. And even now, I'm sure they'll still say it's a fluke, even though you've done it more than once now. But it looks good. And on the top of the off, Courtney, especially if you're a stat person that loves stats, you get an extra disposal for that too. The actual kick, you get the ball away, and then that kick there.
I don't know if I don't think I did. That was the most disappointing thing. I don't think I got another possession for that. I think it's almost similar to like you handballing it around a player on the ground and you pick it up again. It's still one possession. I'm not too sure, but I don't think I did. So I was a bit disappointed in that, because I felt like it went 15 meters too. So it should have been it should have been an extra touch to me.
Absolutely. I mean, the way they're going these days, that would have been not 15, as everything isn't pay 15 meters. Which we'll get to the state of the game now and rules and everything a bit later. But I want to talk about a topic that I know was a very hard time for everyone at Essendon back in the 2013 period, and in your last few years at the Bombers, the saga that everyone talks about, Courtney, and how was it for you and everyone at that club? They had to go through all that time, as you said, you were going awry, then were not in finals and everything like that. How was that saga period for you, Courtney?
Yeah, look, it was quite frustrating. It was, we just, as I said earlier on in the piece, that we just kept getting shot down every time we would step up to the plate and actually deliver what we on the footy field, and how professional we held ourselves throughout majority of the year, pretty much the whole year, actually, to be honest, throughout the whole saga until even still to today, how we've held ourselves very professionally, and we just thought it was quite it was just very, very frustrating that it felt like they just wanted to bring us down. I think because obviously Essendon being one of the biggest clubs in Australia, one of the most successful clubs in Australia as well. So it is very annoying to see that like from the inside, it felt like that's all they wanted to do, is bring down a big scalp. Because throughout, actually even still to today, like no one has been found positive with any of those things still to this day, and yet we've been reprimanded for all of those allegations, and it's very and that's probably what really frustrated me the most. Is I believe that we lost our opportunity to winning a premiership because of the drama that was had throughout that drug saga, and like you can see throughout those years, 2011, 12, 13, and 14, we were building a very strong team, a strong football club, a strong culture within that football club, and it showed on the footy field as well. So it was very, very frustrating and sad at the same time, because what we were wanting to do as players, as a team, as a football club, as an organisation, to win the premiership and bring glory to the Essendon Football Club, but we're always held back because of this massive cloud over us, which again, like I said, none of the players, none of us players have tested positive still to this day. So it's quite sad to see that none of that, or none of the other people that have I guess prosecuted us, bloody, doesn't get anything going their way. So it was a tough several years going through that sort of stuff, and continually going through it and hearing the same stuff over and over again. It's like, come on, that's enough now. We've heard it. It's just worded differently. But it's just very frustrating and sad.
Do you expect to ever hear anything else coming from it? As you said, there's no real closure yet, because you said it wasn't proven and everything like that. Do you ever expect any form of official closure from that side of things to be dead and buried?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they still haven't given Jobe Watson his Brownlow medal back. I mean, he deserves that. He's again, like I said, none of us have been tested positive, yet they still strip him of that. And you've got someone like Ben Cousins who's tested positive for a number of illicit drugs, and yet he still holds his Brownlow medal. So, I don't know what the goal is with the way they pick and choose all that sort of stuff, but I think it's crap, and Jobe should be getting his Brownlow medal back.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about Jobe, and obviously lost, and he probably obviously had to went through a lot, because obviously he was a Brownlow medal winner, and obviously that's a big deal winning that. How could you even imagine how he was feeling in that time too, with the role that he has at the club, and then having that happen, and even now still getting talked about whether or not he should have had it, and then having to have all that on him, as you said, nothing's been proven yet, and yet he's been labelled XYZ.
I don't reckon it would be very tough. Definitely be very tough. He'd have so much outside noise just banging on his head, just wanting to get in, and I guess it helps when you have help of family and friends that keep him grounded and keep him, I guess, have that support for him, and continue to have that support for him through all of this, and continue to have that support for him. Because that would have been one tough job for him, being a captain, having that conversation around, or hearing the conversation around him potentially getting his Brownlow medal taken off him while still playing throughout the year of 2023 and 2024. So, it would have been very, very tough for him.
How much, I think I know what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to ask this anyway. How much do you feel like that's impacted a lot of careers? Obviously, every single player that was involved in coaching, person, and everything like that. And how did it affect your career, or just, not even just on field, but just overall off field, personally, everything?
Yeah, I think it has affected all the players that were involved in that period, and and that's on and off the field too. So, like in the AFL as well as in outside the AFL. But I can't really speak too much for any of the individuals, but I know
Yeah.
that having conversations with a lot of them throughout those years, they have really struggled. I guess the hard part about it is it continually still gets brought up
Mhm.
for the players that were around during that time, and you still get questioned the same questions, and
Mm.
it's sort of similar. It's sort of what annoys me, I guess, is that you get the same questions that everyone else has asked in the media, but and you get the same answer,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, we're not lying, you know. It is what it is, and that's what we're telling you, and that's how it was, and that's how it is. So it
Mm.
is that sort of stuff is probably does take a toll when you continually get asked about it, or continually from the sidelines, even playing at local footy. You know, I had
Mm.
at a stage in local footy, I had a bunch of people just follow me from end to end, just
Mm.
calling me a drug cheat and everything. So having that sort of stuff just continually happen
Mm.
well after my career has finished is
Mm.
it's just a little annoying, and you sort of sit there going, mate, don't you have anything else better to say? Like if
Yeah.
that's all you got to say, then that's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I know. Can't imagine how hard that'd be. As you said, you're playing local footy and haven't played AFL for 9 years from then to now, and then you're still copping random crap from people behind the fence at local level. Is that try and make you not want to play sport anymore, or do you just try your best to get through it? Do you still play now locally, or if still not?
yeah, I was obviously not at this point in time, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was still playing local footy. I did play a little bit in the EDFL, and
Hmm.
then moved across to the WRFL and was playing out there in Caroline Springs
Hmm.
with Brian Lake, who's out there
Yep.
coaching, so and playing. So um, you know, it's good when you're around a football club that doesn't tolerate that stuff as a club, and
Hmm.
it really shows the support that they have. And a lot of and what's good too is a lot of the opposition players do stand up for you as well. So it was
Yeah.
quite good to have that camaraderie from both my own football club as well as the opposition football club really stand up and support me in that aspect, and really made me feel comfortable so that I can
Mm.
come out and just play my game. So
Yeah.
yeah, that certainly helped me, and look, I love football, and I'd love to continue playing for a while, but my body's telling me otherwise as well. So see how I go this year, but I probably doubt that I'll put on the boots this year.
Yeah. Just one more on the situation, and probably trying to take some form of a positive if you can. You mentioned elsewhere in interviews discussing this in the past about, when those 34 players were stood down for the year and then all that, and then had some plays, like top up players in that play. You mentioned Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody, that he may have not gotten the success he had from that period onwards had that situation not happened, and he might not have got a game as he was on the rookie list, I think, at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even think he was on the rookie list at the time either.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure about. I think he was just signed to the VFL team at that time.
Oh, yeah.
So he was training with the VFL side, and still playing at the local EDFL team in
Yeah.
Aberfeldy. And yeah, I believe there was a number of players there that I guess wouldn't have played wouldn't have had that opportunity if those 34 players were not suspended. Uh, that doesn't say that he may have gotten in years to come, but like they always say, one door closes, another door opens. So he got that opportunity to have a crack and really know and find out what it takes to get there and to stay there as well. So those type of players were quite lucky, but with that, it was good to see that they took that opportunity and really flourished in it.
For sure. And now switching gears from that situation to something else. Now, obviously, in football, no one's perfect, Courtney, and not everyone, no matter how good of a player anyone is, they're not always 1000% getting everything done how they want. I know it's a memory that people still probably talk about, and maybe not so much now, but they definitely did around the time you were playing and this happened. That game against Sydney at Marvel, well, not called Marvel then, but was now, about the play-on thing. With that, obviously, things happen. How were you in that moment, and what kind of support did you get in that time? I know it's different to some other things that have happened, but like in that moment, I'm sure you've guarded and disappointed. And obviously, it was just unfortunate. I feel anyway, that Sirens went at the wrong time. How did you go through that time, and how did they get around you for all that?
Yeah, look, I guess the main one was all the players, in particular the coach, the coaching staff, just pretty much rallied around me and basically said in a more I guess understandable way too, to be honest, is that if we played like that in the first 3 quarters, we wouldn't have been in that situation. And I wouldn't have been in that situation. So, you can't really blame yourself from playing on, because as I said, the first 3 quarters we were not up to it, and then all of a sudden in the last quarter we chose to play and tried to win, and we just didn't have that time that we could have had over the first 3 quarters to get back if we were to play like that the whole way through. So that really put a bit of an ease on my mind, because we never really focused on that as a football club. We focused on the first 3 quarters, and then obviously in the last quarter we focused on how we turned it around and that's how we want to play moving forward. From the first bounce till the last siren. So that really helped me in that aspect of getting over it. Obviously, supporters and that, they always ask they ask stupid questions. Well, why did you play on? It's like, well, we never know how long the game is. Like it's not like rugby league where it shows the time counting down. None of that there in AFL. So you don't know, it counts up, and you don't know when the siren's going. So no matter what people say, like, we don't have a clue on the field. So it's quite hard to get a gauge on how long is left in the game. You sort of semi get a gauge by however long the last 3 quarters or each quarter goes for, and you sort of get a gauge on it. But you never know the exact time. And obviously, if I did have my time back, I'd probably wouldn't have played on. I would have just went back and had a set shot.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it is what it is, and as I said before, it happens to anyone, and there's plenty more examples. Just happen to be in the situation you're in, but that's okay. Now, the state of the game, Courtney. Obviously, you'll be across how the state of the game is in terms of injuries and suspensions, and how the times are different. Now, I wanted to show an example, Courtney, of a tackle that you had on Brett Delidio a long time ago at the MCG. I wanted to show that incident and compare it to how it may have been judged now. But here it's a clip of people that don't know what it was. Now, that was edited to have a bit of a wrestling thing. Suplex City. Brock Lesnar has the
Yes, yeah.
Suplex City, and Paul Heyman, he's wise man. But and I'm a wrestling fan, so I wouldn't know that. But now, obviously, I think at the time, correct me, Courtney, if I'm wrong, it got 4 weeks at the time. Could you imagine now if something like that happens? The scrutiny, I'm sure it was back then, definitely too. But even now, if that was to happen now, I mean, players are getting suspended for very small things now, getting 3 or 4 weeks in terms of on-field incidents. So could you imagine now, if you were in that example now, what that would be?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be almost half a season, I reckon. These days, I'll probably go on criminal charges with that sort of tackle these days with the way the game is going, which is quite frustrating because players these days, they're a lot bigger, a lot faster, a lot agile. The game is going so much more quicker, so there's no time for anyone to slow down and do a soft tackle. Like,
Yeah.
and on top of it, it's a contact sport. That's our game. Like,
Yeah.
I understand negligence within the game, but when it's part of the game, I think there's got to be a line drawn. There's too much grey areas, and it's making it frustrating for the supporters. It's making it frustrating for the players. It's making it frustrating for the club and the coaches because we get brought up on how to play the game in those particular ways, and then we get to the top grade and it gets thrown out the window. So it's quite frustrating in that sense that whatever you learn growing up is gone away once you get to the top level.
For sure. I mean, for example, I don't know if you saw the one on the weekend with Ryan Mansell against my Saints. Obviously, he shoved Liam O'Connell, who got a bad concussion, out of it and won't play this week. And he got 3 weeks before they appealed at the tribunal last night and it stayed at 3, just for a push. Now, I understand why people get frustrated because Ruben Jimby did that in the preseason games. He shoved an opponent into another player and he got a broken jaw out of it and got nothing. And now you're shoving someone not much different and you're getting 3. And the AFL's had probably 5 or 6 examples, very similar from the first one to the most recent one, and they did nothing, and now they've given one player 3 weeks. You feel like sometimes that the AFL don't help themselves by not clearing it up after the first incident, and now they're waiting for so many instances to happen, and now they randomly go, yeah, okay, now we'll suspend them, when they should have done it, if they're going to do it, 5 games ago or 5 incidents ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and that's that's what I say. They wait till something bad happens for them to do something about it, and that's way too long. And as I said, they keep banging on so much about the players' welfare when they're actually not really taking the players' welfare into consideration. If they nipped it in the butt right there and then in the first instance, then you would not see many players do that. And it's very frustrating to see that continually happen. And I don't know whether they pick and choose, whether it's a particular player or whatnot. I've heard a lot of those go around, a lot of theories around protected species there and whatnot. So it is quite frustrating, and I think that if they want to put these rules in place, then they have to actually police it properly, not just say that it's these rules are here and then not police it. It's quite annoying.
For sure, I 100% agree, and I'm glad you mentioned about protected species, because that's a saying that I use with some players in clubs. It's not a dig at them; it's just fact, right? As you mentioned, do you feel like there is players and clubs that do get protected depending on who they are? For example, Ryan Mansell. Yeah, this is not a dig at him. He's a best 22, like a fringe type player, right? And he's been made the example out of it. And now, for example, if Patrick Dangerfield had done that, do you think he would be getting the same level of suspension for the exact same incident? This is what I always normally say. If that was Dangerfield in that position, for just an example, he wouldn't get 3 weeks. But because it's a lower level player in the AFL. So I was like, well, we'll make him the example. And if Dangerfield hypothetically was part of the other examples, nothing happens. But now it's someone else. That's the player we can make the example out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that is the case, and I feel that it has been the case for many years, and I honestly think it will still continue to be the case, because I feel that, and this is just my opinion too, but I feel that if they keep those players on the field, supporters will come in because that's who they want to see. So that means more money, more revenue,
Yep.
and the game gets bigger and bigger, and AFL gets more money. So I feel that there's those sort of cases definitely for throughout the last 2 decades, really, to be honest, that this has sort of happened. So yeah, it is. It does seem like that a lot with a lot of those tribunals and incidents like that, and it does get very frustrating, especially for players that are fringe players that do the normal thing that everyone else does, and then they get pinned for it. It's a bit, it's a bit unfair.
For sure. I mean, they's in the AFL. I think they can make all the excuses they want. They try and will nitpick any little detail to try and twist it. For Mansell's example, if a Dangerfield had done it, I'm sure they would find a way to like tweak it a little bit. For example, again, these aren't digs at any of these players. Paddy Cripps. There was talk of that Brownlow that he won, one of the recent Brownlows he won. He should have been suspended late in the year and didn't get suspended for something other players the same year had been suspended for.
Yeah.
But because his name was Patrick Cripps and a Brownlow contender, he doesn't get it.
Yeah, I actually remembered that, and yeah, it was one of those things he should have been, done for, and that's the things I talk about is he should have been done. It happened before. Many players, I think, was it Grant in 2000 or something like that there, who he was suspended, and he came first in the Brownlow, but he couldn't get it because he was suspended. So that should be still the case regardless, and unfortunately it's not the way it is.
For sure, yeah, I know. It's very frustrating. I'm glad someone that's been in that system before, in terms of the AFL players, and saying that players do get protected. I mean, I don't know how many times when I bring this up, people are like, "Oh, you might say this because you don't like this player or like this club." It's true. You can just look like it's not even just the umpiring in general. You can feel like certain teams get looked after as well. Certain players, like with tribunals, with fixturing, and like when coaches, trying to explain things on TV or radio interviews or whatever. And they'll speak their mind, and some you'll be fine, and then some will get in trouble where they get fined or warned or even suspended for saying something that a different coach that they like says something very similar, and nothing happens to them, whether they're right or wrong. And then someone else has said it that they not a big fan of or don't care about as much, they cop the suspension or fine or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that I've always said. AFL is the private school of sports in Australia, and NRL is the public school of sports in Australia, where AFL, they mold you in to be a robot and you have to be good. And if you don't, they'll sweep things under the cover if you're a good person or if you bring in money into the school. But at public, if you're a good player, you're a good player. You can be who you want to be because that's you, as long as you play football and long as you be yourself. Don't obviously do ridiculously stupid things, but you're here as a footballer. You're going to be, your job is playing football. So, and that's how they treat you. Whereas AFL, they just make you be a robot, and you have to, exactly like a private school.
For sure. Now, with the current playing group, Courtney, obviously, there's so many players that so many people get excited about so far. But who's some players in the current AFL system, Courtney, that you feel that you're being across and you feel like they are going to be players to watch out for the future? And just any players in general that you're liking the look of so far in the last few years?
Obviously, watching Essendon a lot more.
Mhm.
Definitely that young Kako.
Oh, yeah.
He's a little live wire up forward. Reckon he'd be really good in a little stint in the midfield, just giving that little bit of run.
Yep.
Sort of like just a tiny little spit, and then continue playing more majority forward. Isaac Rankin, he's gonna be a gun. Watching his last few games, the just the skills and he's just so smooth. He got time, he creates time, and just he makes the game easier for his teammates. So he's going to be one to really watch if his body holds up and like I've heard, as I heard throughout the preseason, he came back a lot bigger, a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So he's getting built ready to really take control of the game. Other than that, there's like I've watched a bit of Hawthorn as well, and that young Watson. He's only a tiny little fella, but he's one of those players that just gets in and does his role. And I guess that whole football club at the moment, watching I think they're obviously round one against Sydney, and then a few other games after that. How gelled and well drilled the whole team is. I think they're going to be a force to reckon with, the whole team, actually, to be honest, within that within the AFL. So but yeah, like I said, I haven't really watched too much games, because the only really games I watch is more so when Essendon play. So and I like watching those boys try and get up and get their win, which they got their first win on Thursday night, which was good. It was a bit scary at the start, because they were coming Port Adelaide, and I felt that they were going to turn a corner. That's Port Adelaide, and I felt that the Essendon boys were going to sort of die off and dwindle away, but they kept at it. They held strong within their structure, and kept their pressure that they lacked in the last 2 weeks. They kept that for the whole 4 quarters, which was really, really good to see. And hopefully from that, all the boys see what they are capable of, and build from that. And obviously, I think they got a bye this weekend. So they, hopefully they get in and get ready for next weekend, and try and replicate what they've done against Port Adelaide.
No, for sure. I was just going to ask you how you feel they've gone through that. So how do you reckon, Courtney, that the Bombers will go first? Obviously, there's a running gag, and look, I'll be honest, I've been guilty of playing that running gag of over 7,000 plus days since winning a final, which is definitely well known, and it's definitely still said. How do you reckon they'll go this year overall?
Yeah, look, I mean, a lot of people do say that, but a lot of those people that say that, they support clubs that haven't won a premiership in a very long time either. So I don't really care about that comment, because and on top of that, there's a lot of clubs that haven't made the finals, and we'll and that's what I was saying earlier on, is that we were on the verge. I believe we were on the verge of winning a premiership throughout that drug saga. So it does take a massive toll, and that's what it does show it on the club itself, and where they have to sort of really rebuild from almost under the ground up, to be honest. And hopefully from then, we look to excuse me, we look to just continue building that culture around the football club. So we have been obviously very close to winning finals a number of times. So I think being in the finals is probably going to help us in the stead of winning one. I don't know how long that will be because with the player movement, it's going to be very hard to try and keep players in at the club, and it's also going to be hard to get players to the club if they want to succeed. So if they continue just building the culture, building about getting to the finals first, because I mean Richmond were the same. They get to finals and get knocked out straight away as well for a number of years, and then they went through and win 3 in a row. So it's not. You can't say that it's not possible. Like it isn't possible. So they can definitely do it. It's just a matter of whether the players have that, I guess, hope that they can, or that confidence, really, more so that confidence that they can.
That's very true. And I've got a few more for you, Corny, so I do really appreciate you coming on and giving some time. What is a week like for you now that obviously you mentioned playing footy for a while and obviously still playing locally up until not recently? What do you get up to these days?
Yeah, not much at the moment. Obviously, just working. I've moved up to Sydney now. I'm living in Cronulla in this nice little pocket of Sydney, Cronulla, along the beach. It's a beautiful place. So it's very nice. I'm here with my partner and her kids, and actually tomorrow morning I'm traveling up to pick up my kids up in Brisbane. To come down for school holidays. So it's just really, I guess, just hanging around family and really spending that time and trying to, obviously, because I moved from Melbourne to Sydney, trying to look for a job now up here in Sydney, and really looking forward to it. I'm actually while I'm looking for jobs, I scored a good role within Sydney Swans and helping out the Sydney Swans Academy.
Nice.
Coaching the young next generation in New South Wales, in particular in the Cronulla area. So I've got my sort of hands in all these little pockets, but obviously in Sydney it's not cheap to be living in Sydney. So definitely need a good paying job up here to really survive, to really keep my head above water in the city of Sydney. So
that's good. So how is that? I know obviously it hasn't been that long, but how is that Swans Academy role going? It must be pretty cool to be involved again at a footy club in some capacity. Yeah,
it's going really good. The system up here with Sydney Swans, I know that it's only the two AFL clubs up here, but they really get out there and they really get amongst the community, and all these programs that they put out there, they're really supporting it, and it's really good to see that happen. And the kids enjoy it. It's something different. Obviously, it's a rugby league state, as we all know. And there's not much AFL, even though Sydney Swans have been a very successful club for a number of years. They are still not a big thing up here due to obviously the rugby league. So it is good to see that clubs like GWS and Sydney Swans getting out there and getting in amongst the community and really driving the sport of AFL within the community up here. And I'm enjoying getting back into the groove of football and helping develop the next generation of football stars and females for the AFLW as well as the AFL men's.
It's good. Obviously, a lot of people know that I cover AFLW. I have a lot of the players on from the AFLW competitions, even from the state leagues and the upcoming draft prospects and everything like that. But it's great to be as someone. I went to 39 AFLW games last year. This is just in general, not just St Kilda games being a Saints supporter, but like any games in general. It's just great getting out there and watching it because it is he's very good to watch. It's great to interact with him after games, even online and everything like that. It's great to see that he's growing, and hopefully, as I said, a lot of the players, and clearly everyone wants to see that loves AFLW, to see the competition expand in terms of season length as well, because that's something definitely that they deserve to see. And as you said, it's growing in those states as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we knew that the AFLW was only going to gradually grow because of the simple fact that we don't have those natural AFL talent coming through as of yet. And once, and you can see it now with a lot of the players coming through the system at the AFLW level, that there are a lot more naturally talented or actually football-minded footballers playing the game now, and you can see the talent growing and the skills are growing, and you just can tell that this game and the competition of AFLW is going to just only going to get bigger. And it is I don't see why the game can't the season can't be any longer. I mean, I think every AFL club has an AFLW club now.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
I don't see why it shouldn't be short anymore. It should be longer, but I do understand that because it's played over the off season, that cricket takes over as well with most of the grounds, and it's very frustrating because cricket does take precedence in the summer. And maybe they're going to have to look at changing the season into winter and putting it maybe before the men's. I don't see why we can't have it before the men's or to the training clubs that where all the AFL men's train, because their venues are state of the art venues now.
Sure.
There's no reason why they can't be played there.
Because they are extending the season. There's been 11 games last year. Now they've expanded it for this coming season at the end of the year for 12 games. So it's good to see it's gradually progressing. And you mentioned too about the talent in New South Wales in the women's side as well, just quickly. Zali Goldsworth at judo, she won the Rising Star the year before last, and just shows that they got some of the best young players in the comp. Sydney got the best young ruck, Ali Morford, and Chloe Malloy, obviously a marquee player in AFLW, coming across from the Pies of Sydney a couple of years ago in their inaugural season. That just shows how much talent, just to name a few, that they've got at both those clubs and across the whole comp in general. Now, the last one for you, Courtney, so we appreciate you coming on, is what is your big, bold call for the AFL season or AFLW season in 2025? What is your big, bold statement that you're going to make? 4 rounds in?
Gold Coast making the finals.
Here we go. It's a good start from so far.
Yeah, and they've played consistent over the 4 games plus the 4 quarters of those games. They've played consistently. Whereas the years before, they would play an outstanding game and just win, or they'll in and out of games all the time, but will get pumped. So to see them really consistently play, it's hopefully, obviously, it is a long season, so many things can change. But I think if they continue the way they're going, build from where they are now, and just hone in on focusing week by week and not really trying to focus too much on we're going to make the finals. I think they will make the finals.
For sure. Now, I must correct myself, Corny, before I know people will be fact-checking me, telling me I'm wrong. Gold Coast have only played 2 games right now, because they had that rescheduled game that they haven't had yet against Essendon, and then they had the bye already, or one of their 2 byes already. So technically they won 2 out of 2, but like you said, the fact still remains. Yeah, they've started terrific in all 4 quarters in both those 2 games. Courtney, it's been a pleasure having you on for, I know what's tough to speak about some things that, about the saga and about footy journey and how it ended at Essendon and everything like that. So I really appreciate you coming on, speaking about all that, and appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Nah, not a problem, mate. No worries. Thanks for having me.